Hey, what's up? This is Udolena from Udolena Digital, and today I'm going to talk about a book I read recently called Sapiens, The History of Humankind by Yuval Noah Harari. Thanks for watching this channel. Be sure to subscribe. The reason why I keep on persisting on this subscribing thing is because YouTube wants me to reach 1,000 subscribers before they start paying me some money for all the effort that I'm putting into this channel. I really want to invest this money into better equipment, into more topics that I want to research, maybe hire someone to help me with research because this is taking a lot of time. So please subscribe and support me. Thank you so much for the support so far. I keep getting really kind comments, likes, and people writing to me on other social media channels. It's really, really awesome, and I'm really happy to hear that this channel is bringing some value to you. So if this is the case, tell your friends. If you think it's gonna help them, subscribe and support me into this journey. Thanks a lot. So today's topic is a book called Sapiens, The History of Humankind. So this is kind of like almost like a pop culture type of book, type of non-fiction book, because it's been sold in 4 million copies. Pretty much every second person that I've spoken with has read it or plans to read it or knows about it. But that's why I was kind of resistant on reading it for a while, because why I have to be so conformist. But recently I was watching a video actually on YouTube, some talks with Yuval, with the writer, and I realized that he sounds like a really smart and interesting person. So I decided to dig into his books, and right now I'm reading his newest book, 21 Lessons for the 21st Century, which is kind of like about the future of humankind or whatever exists after humans, because he thinks that we might not be the last human species on this planet, as we are not the first. So this book is actually, that's the biggest takeaway from it, is kind of he's taking into perspective the historical development of humans. So the reason why it's called Sapiens, Sapiens is the Latin name of the human species. And this kind of emphasizes the fact that we are one out of many. So there were the Neanderthals, Siberian humans, they were Java humans, they were another human species which lived in modern China. And we all have bits and pieces. Actually, funny enough, different races have, some of them have a little bit more Neanderthal, some of them have a little bit more of these Siberian species, but it's overall like a very, very small percent. We are Homo sapiens. So to compare Homo sapiens, so imagine dogs. So dogs have different sizes, shapes. So this can represent the different humans, you know, like humans look different. Like some of them have different skin colors, hair color, eye color. But overall, biologically, the differences between them are negligible. We are able to reproduce between each other, to interbreed, and our offspring can reproduce as well. Whereas between a dog and a wolf, or a dog and a fox, even though they are the same animal family, this would not be possible, or their offspring will be infertile. Same with donkeys and horses. They're the same family, but they're different species. So the same way as they were dogs and wolves and foxes, they were Homo sapiens and other species. And somehow, for some reason, and he kind of brings in a lot of different kind of theories around why this happened, but Homo sapiens was the one that was able to make it and actually wipe away from the surface of Earth all the other brothers and sisters of our family. And for that reason, today we don't have Neanderthals, which says we are not the first one, and we're not going to be the last. And the main reason for this is he is researching a lot of history and biology. So kind of the biological moment is one of the key factors in the book. The fact that now with technology, we are able, actually, we've mapped the gene, and we are now able to actually use this information to learn more about ourselves, and moreover we are able to modify these genes to get the qualities that we want to have in a certain species. So in a way, we, like Dr. Frankenstein, can essentially make our own superhuman species, which could be much better than what we have achieved by pure evolution. And there is the possibility that there could be another species that would branch out of us, so there will be Homo sapiens and something better that might get rid of us at some point. But this is kind of like a very future speculation. One of the most interesting parts of the book is the different revolutions. So there are different revolutions in humankind. There is the revolution, a cognitive revolution, so something that happened in the brain of Homo sapiens that changed Homo sapiens and gave them the opportunity to take over. So there could be different theories around this. So he does not kind of say like this is the right thing, but he kind of puts it out there. There's this theory, that theory, that theory. Whatever it is, there was something that happened in our brains. Even though we had smaller brains compared to the Neanderthals, we were able to actually win in evolution sense the battle. Another interesting point was the agricultural revolution, that when people started actually settling down, living with the animals, domesticating animals, changing the environment so that it can suit the needs of human, so kind of for human and their animals and their plants, so everybody else is excluded out of this, kind of the idea of property, of separating things. And actually this was very interesting thing that I haven't thought about, is that actually after the agricultural revolution people lived much worse lives. They had to work much harder, they were eating worse diets. So basically they were relying on grain as the main source of energy, on plants and grains. They were subject to a lot of diseases that they were catching from the domesticated animals, and they could easily spread because they lived in tight, larger groups, all of them together. So if they could catch a plague, all of them die. And still they were able to reproduce more. So even though the food was bad, they had to work really hard, life was so much harder than a hunter-gatherer family, they were able to have more children, even though a third of these children only survived. At the end, biologically, they were more successful than the hunter-gatherers, and that's why actually the whole society, the whole humankind actually essentially adopted this kind of lifestyle for a very long period, almost until the beginning of 20th century. 90% of people were in agriculture. So where I come from Bulgaria, for example, where my family lives, it's a village, and basically 1 or 2 generations before, they were completely agricultural dependent. So they were proper peasants, working on the fields, feeding the animals, and even now, when most of them actually don't have to do that, they still have pigsties, they still have chicken, they still put enormous amount of physical effort to grow their own tomatoes, where they can buy them for pennies on the market. They still grow their own tomatoes. So my point is that in genetical sense, people were more successful. In individual sense, they were less happy. They had to work harder. Actually, they were dying with diseases. Like you can see their skeletons. They were actually suffering with fractures, and a lot of terrible stuff was happening to them. And this was because they adopted different lifestyle. But essentially, as a biological form, they were better. And another example that he brings in, which is actually startling to think about, is animals. So domesticated animals today are prevailing with tens and tens of thousands and millions the wild animals. So there is much more cows than there are, I don't know, okapi zebras or anything like that. So most of the wild animals are very small, they live in very small territories, they're really fighting for survival. So many of them are going to be extinct soon. Whereas the cows and the chicken that we breed and basically that we look after, they are thriving. However, they are some of the most miserable creatures that you can imagine. The way they are farmed at the modern farms, you know, they have like these little spaces where they spend all their time not playing with other, not socializing. They are looked after by machines. They are milked by machines. The moment they give birth, the small ones are taken away. Some of them are killed, some of them are castrated. It's just like when you learn about animal industry, you want to take your guts out. It's really disgusting. And the main reason is that biologically the DNA of these animals is a huge success, but on the individual level these are the most miserable creatures. And this is kind of like how humanity has been developing so far. So biologically we are totally winning the game. We are the only Homo species. We are running the earth, like we have modified it so it's pretty much safe and adapted to our needs. But on individual level we are not always the happiest. And even with what we do, like it requires so much work that actually our lifestyle is not meant to be this way, the way it is running now. Then there is a few very interesting chapters about kind of the development of empires, the big geographical discoveries, and how come certain small countries that were relatively not so much better technologically compared to the big empires of that time, let's say the Ottoman Empire, Indian Empire, Chinese Empire. How come Europeans with their crappy little ships were able to conquer such huge territories and slay off and wipe out of the face of history of the earth entire countries and empires in South America, and kind of really changed the whole world? What was the difference between Europeans and all the others who actually technologically at the time of the big geographic discoveries, Chinese, Ottomans and Indians do have had fleet, very similar fleet to Europeans. However, they didn't go into exploration, into conquering other nations, and yeah, they kind of didn't have this curiosity and this sense of mission that the Europeans had. So he talks a little bit about the mental models around the development of Europeans, how Europeans were actually explorers, but not only explorers. They wanted to learn. So it was scientists and conquerors traveling together. So there would be the moment of making money, the moment of exploring nature, the moment of curiosity, and the psychological kind of mission-driven mindset that they had to actually go and change what's out there. There's a lot of unknown worlds out there, and they had a mission to find these worlds and to get them to be in a certain way, which it caused tremendous amount of suffering, it caused tremendous amount of change, but essentially what they did was transforming the world and actually making the world what it is today. Ideologies that exist today in countries that were ruled by the Europeans and which actually detest the fact that they were ruled by the Europeans, actually they still have adopted to big extent ideologies that were developed in the West, like liberalism, like capitalism, like nationalism, the sense of nationality. So these are all European ideas that were exported together with science, with imperialism, and all the bad stuff as well that came with that, like slave trade, exploitation, and destroying of natural resources. And then we come to the final chapter, which is nowadays, and this is actually kind of the title of this chapter is The End of Homo Sapiens. So he kind of starts playing a bit with the ideas like, okay, we are not the first and we're not going to be the last. What if we can now design other humans that are better than us? What will happen with us? Like, why does the planet need us? Let's say if we design a society which is, let's say, lives longer, is more beautiful, smarter, extendedly smarter, it's kind of like half machine, half human, this kind of cyborg. Why do they need Homo sapiens apes? And yeah, I thought about that, and they don't. So it's interesting to think about the future. It could be like a lot of scenarios, a lot of possibilities. But now I'm listening to the next book, which is 21 Lessons for 21st Century, which is talking exactly about these ideas. So strongly recommend this book. It's really great book. It's quite big, as you can see, but it's such a fast read. This is all from today. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe to this channel. Let's make it to 1000 subscribers. I'll be back with a new video soon. Thank you.